Hello and welcome to the Women of Dare Whimsy, Between Us Girls. We are so thrilled to have you join us today. Today we're talking about healthy habits and healthy snacking. I am Sarah Cook and I'm joined today with Dr. Edith as well as Gail Roddy. And so I'm so excited that we get to talk about healthy snacking and healthy eating because really our food is our fuel for our potential. And when we are gifted and talented women, as well as leading gifted and talented organizations, as well as families, it's really important that we stay at our peak potential in using our gifts because that's what we're designed to do. And when we don't take care of our nutrition, then we find that we fall and we have setbacks with whether it be with health or relationally or in our organizations because we haven't taken care of that person that's most important in our lives, which is ourselves. Taking care of ourselves allows us to take care of others and to lead and grow and inspire and empower other people to be their best selves. So I'd like to first go ahead and talk to Dr. Edith about how nutrition really impacts people who are multi-talented as well as the people that she works with in her practice, as well as the people that she counsels. And then, Dr. Edith, would you please turn it over to Gail after that, and Gail's going to talk to us a little bit about nutrition for different ages in the lifespan, as well as some triggers to poor nutrition.
Good morning. And it's so great to be here with the Women of Dare Whimsy. We always have something interesting to explore. And healthy habits is a very good thing. And we're talking about nutrition this morning, how we feed our bodies. And if we don't feed our bodies, we're not feeding our minds. And I think we'll hear some more about that disconnect with what we're eating and sleeping and how we're feeding and taking care of our bodies and how our minds work. It's really important when I'm working with different people because of being multi-talented, they also may have dual diagnoses, and that means that dual diagnoses may involve medications. And as we know, medications are, especially in the mental health field, are designed to impact the brain. So if we're not supporting that brain with healthy food, which includes our snacking, because we're very much of a junk food society, we won't have the resources for the medication to work correctly, for us to be able to function correctly, or to be able then to make decisions. Because without the clarity of the mind, our gifts are much harder to use because they're pretty intense and interrelated and fast-moving. And so if we put them in the murky water, it's kind of hard to be able to see with clarity what's really all there. What's all living within our own minds and our own bodies. I like to share with people that, taking a pause is important, and as junk food addicts, or with this culture in general, many a times addictions is part of our problem, and it doesn't matter whether it's Coca-Cola, whether it's coffee, whether it's wearing pink all the time and it's the only color that you can possibly wear, having your hair done different ways, whatever that addiction is, or the type of personalities you hang with and interact with, it's affected by our healthy habits. And our healthy habits include snacking on healthier foods, foods that can fuel us, but that snacking also involves on how we approach life. Are we taking things by piecemeal? So we like to be healthy about that also. And in all of this, the idea is to be able to have the resources and the fuel and the ability then to express ourselves and talents and interact with others. Now I'm going to let Gail talk about some very specific things when it comes to healthy eating and healthy snacking throughout the generations.
Thank you, Dr. Edith. Ladies, I'm so glad to be here with all of you, those that we can see and those that we are not able to see. Dr. Edith, as I was listening to you, it is so true, as many times we've said it, Dare Whimsy, and it just follows us throughout every aspect of our lives. It's awareness. I remember 100 years ago when I was a teenager, I became very aware of how certain foods affect me because it was so cool to be a teenager now and to be able to drink coffee. Now, I know in some families, kids drink coffee. We weren't allowed to drink coffee until we got to be teenagers. My parents drank it, but we were not allowed as kids to drink it. So when I started having coffee, I thought I was so cool. I'm grown up now. I can indulge in this thing that grown-up people indulge in. Well, I discovered something about myself that I have never forgotten all these years later. I cannot drink coffee. The caffeine in coffee, now other caffeine, chocolate, caffeines in teas don't bother me as much, but the caffeine in the coffee bean just will shut my brain down. And it took me a long time to figure that out because coffee is supposedly a very benign substance for millions of people throughout the world. For me, it brings on a very, very powerful depression. So that was one thing that brought me to thinking about food, the substances we ingest, and how they affect our brain. I learned that at an early age, and that brought up awareness. And ever since then, I've been trying to be more and more aware of the foods that affect me, the different times of eating, the amounts of eating. So snacking comes in a way that makes me very aware of what I can and cannot do. But snacking can also be a very positive thing. As Sarah mentioned, we were talking earlier, is that if I go to a meeting in the early morning, it's not good for me to eat breakfast early in the morning. I know millions of people have to eat breakfast or their energy, their brain function suffers throughout the day. I'm just the opposite. If I eat too early, it sets off an insulin reaction in my body where I just want to eat all day long. So sometimes I'll go to a meeting, a breakfast meeting, and I can't eat anything. I have to just drink tea or water. But by 11 o'clock, I'm going to need to eat, and guess what? No one else is going to be wanting to eat. And so I'm going to have some kind of snack that I can just discreetly eat to fuel my body and my brain at that time. Once again, awareness is so important. Awareness of what works for you, because there's just no 100% foolproof way that works for everyone. So we'll go on and talk a little bit more about that as we grow older, but I'd love to hear, Sarah, your viewpoint on how you eat and what works for your brain function. And as a mother, you have children that you are responsible for to make sure that they get what they need to eat for proper brain function.
Absolutely. Well, it's so interesting that you talk about awareness, Gail, because it really is a lot of awareness. I'll talk about myself first, because as a mother and also as a sales trainer with a very large organization, I find that I have to really pay attention to me. And I was a very sick child. I started getting really bad sinus infections when I was about 8 years old. And for years and years and years, we didn't know what was my problem. So I was lots of different specialists and lots of different things that I tried to make myself better. And never once did we consider that it was diet. It was just in a time that it was, take some herbs, go on some antibiotics, and work through the traditional medical system, as well as maybe some chiropractic. And it wasn't until my husband got very sick in 2004, and we were led to an osteopath who said, hey, have you ever considered diet as a way to heal yourself? And I hadn't. No one really talked to me a lot about that, which was interesting. I mean, we thought about diet as pertaining to getting your fruits and vegetables and the food pyramid. And I had studied for a while to be a dietitian, and so I had a lot of that food pyramid type education and biochemistry and things like that, but never considered diet as a way to heal people. And so at this point, when this osteopath talked to our family, I decided that would be a really great way to support my husband, who was asked to go on this specific diet. And in a matter of just a couple weeks, really, in a matter of 2.5 months, I completely changed my lifestyle. I quit having sinus infections altogether. I quit having migraines that were affecting me every single week. I lost almost 40 pounds. I had been plus size my entire life, and I went from being plus size to about a 4'6", and not having to worry about maintaining it, which was odd for me because I had sold myself on that I was always going to be this larger person, and it was my bone size, and you know, I just could never be petite, even though I was very short. And it really got me on this track to understanding that our food is truly fuel, but it also can be healing to us, and it can sustain us at a really peak potential, or it can actually put us in bed. And so for me, that awareness of, oh my goodness, our food is really integral to how we are able to function, I was able to then change my diet, and I cut out wheat out of my diet and corn out of my diet and pork and peanuts, because they all became, I found that they were all very high triggers for me to be very, very sick. Now, what Gail talked about, every single person is different. We're all very unique in our needs, and Dr. Edith talked about that as well, that we all have very different needs. And so as individuals, we have to be aware of our own selves. And as I became more aware of myself, I was able to then look at what was going on with my children, and each of them had their own unique individual needs as well. Now, it's hard when you're a parent of tweens and teens because they don't like to eat what you tell them to eat. They have their own things that they like to eat, and they have food that's cool, and their friends are eating it at the birthday parties and at the, you know, after school events and after games and all those different things. So we've had to deal with some, you know, outbursts and some depression and some, you know, different things because they are unwilling to change their food habits right away. And sometimes they're unwilling to change indefinitely or for a certain period of time. And so we just had to manage. And what I've learned is to have options and to introduce foods and to say, you know, I really want you to try at least 2 bites. And then you don't have to eat any more, but I need you to try at least 2 bites. And that has been important to introducing my kids to foods like figs and broccolini and Asian beans that look like licorice rips that are super long, and, you know, different opportunities for them, you know, different ways of preparing lamb or preparing fish, you know, because it doesn't look so awesome to them to have this beautiful piece of cod that's cooked with dill and ghee and these healthy nutrients when they're used to eating fish sticks that are battered and, you know, baked, that don't really look like fish at all. So learning to make food beautiful has been really key to helping my children want to actually try the food. And so it's become an expression of art for me, as well as a way to gather the family. So we have a lot more family dinners now because I want my children to experience something beautiful and the table set beautifully, as well as a chance to gather, as well as them to have a chance to try something new, because that's that awareness to how they feel after they've eaten those foods, but also the exposure to new things will allow them to try more and more new things. And then when they get home from school, having the options for healthy snacks. So I don't buy on purpose. I rarely, every once in a while we do buy, but I typically don't buy chips anymore. Those snack packs of chips, I don't buy them. I don't typically buy cookies. If we're going to make some cookies as a family, then we'll make some that are gluten-free and some that only the boys want to eat. But that choice as a mother to control what is coming into our home is really important. Now, children in our house have their own money. They have their own businesses. They have ways of earning extra cash. So I can't always control whether they're going to get a Slurpee at 7-Eleven or whether they're going to go get Taco Bell after school or popcorn at the movie theater. But I can control what's happening in our own family, which is really, really important, because it allows me to control what's being tempted for me, and it allows me to control what's happening with my children. Now, Dr. Edith, what have you found, because you have grandchildren, what have you found has helped your own children and grandchildren with healthy eating?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, as we talk about healthy eating and children and things like this, we're talking also about habit formation. So we have an awareness, but we're looking at habits and that choice. And by empowering each other for those choices is there. So even with my grandchildren, and I'm talking right now, 5-year-olds and 2-year-olds. And so what are the choice? Well, let's see. We have an apple. I have applesauce. I have maybe some raisins, maybe some pure chocolate versus, lots of other kinds of chocolate, so that we can have a little treat that's really, really special. But again, trying to provide them. If it's going to be something that's not quite as healthy, why is it in moderation? But empowering them by giving them choice, so they're consciously making choices of what they're putting in their body, even at that small age, is really, really important for us. And that becomes so that we can then continue to make choices as we go on through our years. We've got that habit then of saying, okay, I have a choice here, whether it is even at something like a fast food. And we can look at that, and I know Gail would educate me on this right quick like. Even if we looked at the salad versus the hamburger, it's still a choice. And if we're making that conscious choice, and it still may not be the ideal, but we make that choice. Back to what both Gail and Sarah were saying, is knowing our own bodies is really, really important. So I have a granddaughter that is lactose sensitive. So we look at almond milk, again, making those choices. She was on almond milk, and I was arguing with myself for something simple. I'm talking about habits and changing lifestyle. And I would use the apple juice. It had been highly recommended for my body's needs to do black cherry juice. Well, if you compare prices, then you have to kind of think, well, apple juice won't hurt me. But it wasn't that it was helping me. That was it. So if my granddaughter needed almond milk, and I didn't even think twice about almond milk for her, what about self-care for this grandma so she's there for the granddaughter? So that meant black cherry juice it is. And little details like that are important. Sacrifice? Yeah, but sacrifice isn't good if you're going to give up and not then be available as your full, balanced self to be able to support the decisions and practice and demonstrate by practice for your grandchildren what's going on. Hey, Miss Gail, when you look at all these kinds of experiences, both your mother as well as the teenagers you work with, what ideas do you have, especially with the elder, those that are going on? I know you've worked really closely with your mother lately.
That's very true, Dr. Edith, but it's kind of the same thing. You have to model the behavior. You said something so amazing about your grandchildren, is that it's up to us, out of whatever older generation we are, we have to be an example for the younger people, because if they don't see us doing it and we're preaching to them about, oh, you need to eat healthy, you need to get more sleep, you need to de-stress, if we aren't doing this, it kind of rings hollow, especially for the teenagers and the younger ones. The older, when you're in your 20s and 30s, sometimes you can kind of go, okay, they're kind of preaching, but they're not living it. But the younger generations, the teenagers and the younger children, your grandchildren's age, if they don't see us doing it, they're not going to be as likely to follow. Perhaps as they get older, as they stumble around and fall down in these issues of self-care, they may make different choices. But to see us doing it daily, or as much as we can, because we all fall short. I fall off and eat things that I know I shouldn't eat, and if someone sees me eating them, I know they're thinking, well, that Gail Roddy, she's eating some potato chips or whatever. It may be that I'm going through a highly stressed time and I just fall off. I admit it. I don't claim perfection. None of us claim perfection here at Dare Whimsy, that's for sure. We're not gurus, but we do try to be examples. I think that's very important. And Sarah, in your family, what a wonderful gift you can look at it for your children to see your husband having been ill and changed his health through food. I know that was traumatic for them to watch, but the greater lesson there is to see that, yes, this really can be done. You know, they're not just saying this. We are seeing that this can be done, that your health can be changed through the food choices we make. That will carry with them for the rest of their lives. It's just always so amazing to me how sometimes we're giving examples when we're not even deliberately doing them. I just think that's such a cool thing about life as I'm growing older and learning these things. And I just want to talk a minute too about how the whole essence of self-care is important in snacking. Because if you don't get enough sleep, if you're highly stressed out, if you're running, you know, burning the candle at both ends, most likely you're not going to make food choices that are healthy and wise for you, because there's science behind it. Is that if you're worn out, if you're stressed out, if you're getting insufficient sleep, your brain wants the rush of carbohydrates. So it's going to pick the first thing that it knows will go right into your bloodstream and hit your brain. It's an emergency situation, and sometimes we just have to go there because it is an emergency. So that's why we have to back up and make sure we pay attention to the self-care of getting enough sleep, trying to avoid as many stressful situations as we can. We can't avoid them all, but there are choices that we can avoid many stressful situations, because that will keep healthy snacking, it will keep snacking down a lot, because we really don't need to do a lot of snacking. Most people, especially in this country, eat 2 or 3 meals a day. Snacking is really something that is just a cultural thing with us here in America. But if we're going to snack, if the stress level is down, if there's sufficient sleep, we have a tendency to not need that mainline rush of those simple carbohydrates that go right into our bloodstream. Sarah, maybe you can talk a little bit more about your kids. I'm wondering about your kids and the peer pressure. Are they at that age where they are really, really influenced a lot, or has your example at home helped to keep that curbed?
You know, it depends on the child. You know, every child is different in how they're influenced by peer pressure. For a while, my daughter was very influenced. It was very, very difficult. And so if she was going to an event where there was going to have like some kind of dessert, she would often bring a dessert that she had made at home so she could eat it while she was there. Does that make sense? Like bring a little cake, or bring, you know, if they were going to have birthday cake, she would just not eat. My boys, though, it's not been so important. They're very, very buff. They work out. They eat cruddy, and it hasn't really caught up to them that their nutrition is not helpful for the, you know, for the basketball and the weightlifting and the, you know, the hard drive that they're doing on their bodies. I mean, it probably will in 5, 10, 15 years, but right now they're not seeing it because they're super ripped. You know, they go to the gym, they work out, they've got, you know, great physical physique, but internally it hasn't really caught up with them how they're eating. But I do know that as they make different choices, we've been able to expose them to more and more options for healthy eating. And then you also, Gail, talked about how some people just need those 3 meals a day. For me, having experienced several concussions in my life and having worked through nutrition to get through some of them, the rebound, you know, the recovery of some of them, what I found is that when you've had brain damage, and, you know, sometimes concussion leads to that, is that your body's need for a consistent drip of nutrition is really important. And so I find that just to have clear focus, I need to eat about every 2 hours now. And I didn't have to do that before, but I need to have protein, like a protein carbohydrate balance every couple of hours, or I will find myself dipping when it comes to my mood, as well as my clarity, as well as like just consciousness, like being able to stay awake. And so I'll have green beans, you know, just raw green beans. I'll have raw cabbage chip. You know, I just cut cabbage pieces up into wedges. I'll have carrots. I'll have almonds. I'll have walnuts. Things that are like slow breakdown. They're a carbohydrate as well as a protein balance. And so that helps me to always maintain that high function when I need to or when I choose to. So we've talked a lot of different things today, and we've talked about children's needs, we've talked about our own personal needs, we've talked about the needs of aging as well as multi-talents. We've talked about lots of different options for why we snack and why we make healthy choices. Something else I want to really just point out before we wrap up here today is that making healthy choices isn't really just sacrificing our, the extra money in the food budget. I want you to look at maybe it as a, not maybe, but I want you to look at it as an investment. Because I used to think, oh my goodness, we're spending all this extra money on these food choices that are better for us, but it's costing our family. And then I looked at the investment that it was allowing me to make being a healthy mother, being a healthy leader, being able to be game on, if you will, more often throughout the day rather than being in bed with a migraine or with a sinus infection or with depression. And that switch, that paradigm shift of looking at my choices as being investment, not only in myself, but in the people that are around me that I have influence over, was a real game changer for me. Because now I look at every choice as being an opportunity to serve and an opportunity to use my gifts to bless myself, but also bless others. I'm sure that the ladies on the channel today or the show today with me would agree with that. At Dare Whimsy, we meet here every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We meet here every Wednesday to talk about things that influence women that are gifted and talented, not just women, but girls as well. And so we hope that you'll join us on Wednesdays, whether it's the replay, you're listening to the recording, or because it doesn't fit your schedule to tune in live, or whether it's live with us. We love that you join us. We hope that you'll also look at darewhimsy.com to see the articles that we write there. And every Thursday, we have a topic that mirrors the topic that we talk about on Wednesdays. And that topic allows us to share different perspectives because all of us have unique perspectives on the topics that we talk about. It also has a link at darewhimsy.com in that article that is a multi-author article, has links back to our sites, our own personal website, so that you can follow us home and learn more about us if you resonate with us and the things that we share. We'd also love to hear what you have to share. We'd love to have you add some comments. Tell us what you are about, who you be, and how you like to share your gifts to the world. And we'd love to find out more about you and have you join our community of women. We appreciate you sharing this time with us today, and we appreciate you taking time to just look at how your healthy habits and how your snacking habits affect you personally, as well as affect your children and your grandchildren, as well as affect the people in your organizations and the people that you mentor. Each of us is important. Self-care and taking care of ourselves nutritionally is very important because our food is fuel. Thank you again for being with us today. I'm Sarah Cook of SarahLCook.com. I'm just one of the many voices. We have Dr. Edith, and Dr. Edith will have her website on our multi-authored article, as well as Gail Roddy. She'll have her website there. So thank you for being with us today at Dare Whimsy Between Us Girls show, and we'll see you again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central. Bye-bye.